First up on our schedule today is Mrs. Anne Robinson, a teacher trainer, author of the Fun series, presenter and team trainer for Cambridge University Press and Assessment. After our conference today, you can find more information about Anne, as well as her helpful insights and teaching tips on her webpage, teachingtogether.info. She'll be talking to us about how to future-proof ourselves and our students, how to become proactive, improve adaptability, and some takeaway activities for teachers to use with their students. It's a great pleasure to have her today to speak with us. Please do not forget to ask questions using the option which is on your screen. So, Anne, welcome. Over to you now and enjoy the talk.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Good morning, everyone. So excited to see in the chat box how many of you are already online, and also the amazing range of countries that you're joining us from. So let me first of all share my slides for the session. Yeah, and please use the chat box to put in any comments, and I'll be asking you some questions as we go through the session. And just to check, I hope everybody, you can hear me clearly. If you just like to put a thumbs up or a yes in the chat box, that would be brilliant. Excellent, good. All right, let's get going then. So the title of my session is, let me just move the chat box from the middle of my window. Okay, so my session today is talking about future-proofing ourselves and future-proofing our students. So what do we need? So what is future-proof? So the dictionary definition for future-proof, it's both a verb and an adjective, if you're a linguist like me and like those to find out those details. And if you future-proof something, it's usually referring to technology, so software or a computer, and you make sure that it can still be used in the future, even when technology changes. So you might upload new programs, or you might increase the memory on your computer to be able to hold more files or bigger files. And you can make something future-proof. It can be an adjective. And if you've noticed in the definitions there, I've put an orange circle around etc. Okay, because I feel that we are the etc. or we're part of that definition, so that we need to future-proof ourselves and our students so that we can still teach, we and our students can still study, and we can still continue to work in the future even when circumstances change. And we need to make ourselves and our students future-proof. So, back in March 2020, nearly 2 years ago now, we went, where I am in Spain, certainly, we went into lockdown, and we went into quite strict lockdown for quite a while. And I was wondering what to do. I don't know whether you found yourselves in this situation. I was wondering, well, how can I help? How can I do something that'll help other people? I thought about making masks. I can sew, but I'm not a brilliant sewer, okay? But I did think about that. And then I got one particular email from a teacher asking me for help. So this teacher was online, well, going to take her lessons online, and she'd never done that before. And she had primary students. They didn't have their books at home. Some of them maybe didn't have an internet connection. So I thought, well, how can I help teachers around the world? And I wrote this post on my webpage called Taking Positive Action. And I'm just going to highlight a few of the things that I decided how maybe I could help teachers. So I think this is still the case that I'm going to be sharing a survey with you that I've been doing. And so there are a huge variety of teaching situations right now. I'm sure if I were to ask you, what are you doing right now? How are you teaching? I'm sure we'd get a really wide range of answers. So I thought, well, there's this huge range of teachers out there. They're teaching different ages, different groups of students. Their students might have technology, or they might not have internet. So how can I help? So I decided in March 2020 that I would concentrate on young learners. And by young learners, I mean students aged between about 7 and 13 years old. I'm not a pre-primary expert, so I didn't feel as though I would be the right person to provide help there, really. And one of the reasons why I chose younger learners, apart from my experience in writing materials for this age group, was that I felt that teenagers and adults would be used to working more independently, and there are out there a lot more materials which had already been created for perhaps teenagers and adults. However, children are obviously developing in so many ways, and perhaps they're not used to working online. They're not used to sitting still for a long time, amongst other things. And they won't have the experience of looking on the web and finding materials that would be suitable for themselves. So I thought, well, that's the area that I can see there's the biggest need. So that was March 2020. So what I've done since then is I've created some materials. I'm just going to show you a few examples. So as part of my positive action, I thought, well, how can we use young learners' surroundings and get them to look around themselves and observe things even in their house, even in their bedrooms. And I produced some find it's, some treasure hunts. So you can see, I created them for pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers, and I shared these via my webpage. They're still available. If you would like to contact me, I will share the link where you can download them. So this is one of the things that I did. I also, for Fun for Movers, I created extra tasks for all of the units, and again, I shared that document via my webpage. And then I was very lucky in that Cambridge University Press and Cambridge Assessment, which are now one organisation, asked me to create lots of materials, including the Kahoots for young learners, which are available on the Cambridge Assessment English webpage. And I've been, like I am today, I've been lucky to be asked to give lots of webinars and have lots of teachers like yourself, very motivated teachers, online at the webinars, and the recordings of the webinars are available. So I've felt very lucky to have those opportunities, and I've really relished them. And I was pretty new to webinars when all this started. I think I'd probably given about 5 or 6 webinars in my life. Everything else had been actually face-to-face. So for me, it's been a new experience, but I've definitely learned a lot. And I think there are, in some ways, the fact that this conference today is online means that, from 60 countries, you're able to join, and there's no way you would have been able to join if this had been a face-to-face conference. So it's definitely got some really positives. So in preparation for today's session, I did some crowdsourcing. I created a survey, which I believe a lot of you have answered, because I've had a lot of teachers from Albania in the last few days submitting their answers to my survey. If you haven't, it's still live, you could still do it. And I'm going to show you the results of 4 of the questions. I asked 6 questions, and I'm going to share the results of 4 of the questions. So what I'm going to show you are the answers that I collected between the first day when I launched the survey on the 13th of January And the 3rd of February, because I had to have a cutoff point where I could actually collate the answers and finish my presentation for today. So there were 6 questions, and I'm going to show you the results of 657 teachers. When I checked this morning, I had 693 answers. Okay, so if you've answered between yesterday and today, then your answers are not included here. Okay, but I will at some point close the survey and collate the final results. Okay, so question 3 was this. Okay, so when lockdown hit, okay, so I believe that most of you will have experienced lockdown. How well prepared do you think you were to switch your classes online? And I gave teachers 5 options to choose from. Okay, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. As I say, you can visit the survey if you like. And these were the results that I collected on Thursday. And the good news was that in most cases, teachers felt that they'd been fine, they had everything they needed, or a lot of teachers said, I managed to cope with the equipment, but I had to perhaps invest in some more equipment. And they certainly had to explore things like which platform to use for their online classes, how to do it, how to communicate with their students. But the good news is, 2 years on, most teachers have been able to cope, and I think you all deserve a big round of applause for doing that. I did have quite a few teachers who said, I had to do a crash course in technology. I've certainly got friends who said that, one weekend they spent the whole weekend researching platforms and practicing with the platforms. And there were very few teachers, I think there were 8, who said that they weren't able to switch their classes online. So the positives are there, which is great news. Okay, I also asked the question, how did your students adjust to online teaching? And the answers I got there, we'll see in a minute. Okay, so I gave 5 options. Students responded positively and reacted quickly. It took some time. It varied depending on the student and their home situation. I lost several students, or none of my students were able to attend online classes. And the results have shown definitely the biggest choice that the teachers chose was that it varied a lot. So depending on students' connections, access to technology, computers, even willingness to go online, that really did vary. It wasn't the same for all students. But as you can see, the good news was that only three teachers answered that none of their students had been able to continue with their classes, although 84 people did say that some of their students were not able to continue or perhaps didn't want to continue. So in the result of this question, I think I would generally say that the balance tends towards the negatives, but there are some positives to be taken away. So definitely a very frequent answer mentions the socio-economic situation of students. So not all students are able to have access to technology. Perhaps there is a computer at home, but perhaps their parents are using it for work if their parents were working from home. So Maya, I agree, age is so important as well, okay? So, I think all students need training in certain things, which is one of the things I'll be mentioning. And, the fact whether have they got their parents' support is a big factor, and that's one very important thing. I think that, can parents support the children, perhaps actually connecting the computer, going online, clicking on the right link, making sure, that the volume's right, those kind of things. So definitely for younger learners, we do need an adult to provide, I think, support if we're talking about online learning. And then one very common thing that I've heard, both from friends and also from the results of the survey, was that in the beginning, it was quite a novelty. And so students were quite excited about, turning on their cameras and talking to each other. But I think as time went on, perhaps students, I've had a lot of teachers who say that, that students didn't want to turn on the camera. And again, that's something I'll be talking about. But in the positives, definitely another thing which I've heard a lot is that some students actually loved online classes. So lots of stories of students who are normally shy in the physical classroom actually coming out and being much more open and extrovert when they were in the online classes. I've heard that a lot. I don't know whether it's happened to you. And definitely students actually loved, the fact that they could show that they could organize themselves, and they could work in their own time or at their own pace, and they were doing real assignments. Okay, so they were carrying out research, they were collating information, they were perhaps giving a presentation. So really, I think they're seeing the relevance of what they were doing and what they were learning. And question number 6, I think, again, I thought, wow, this is wonderful. Okay, by far the biggest response here is that students have become much more understanding and tolerant. And I mean, wow, what a great benefit to have drawn from this situation that we've all been through. However, we do have to remember that 231 teachers said that the students had lost out on some things, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. So we've got this big divide, I think. We've got, on the one hand, students who perhaps have thrived through this situation. They've become more autonomous. They've had the chance to prove that they can work independently, and they've succeeded in that. And that, of course, we've all gained new technology skills. We've all discovered new platforms. Even the platforms themselves have developed so much and improved so much in response to this huge demand. But that's definitely been the case for students who like technology, who like looking at a screen, who like perhaps appearing on camera. The stronger students, again, tend to be stronger in these situations. And definitely, having access to good technology and a good, strong internet connection definitely would make a big difference. On the other hand, lots of talk about anxiety, depressed students, weaker students getting even further behind, perhaps. Erwin, you're exactly what you're saying. Some students became more autonomous, but a lot became less communicative. So this is something I think we've got to address now. Okay, so how can we future-proof students? Well, I think we should take forward things that we've learned and they've learned. So let's continue to encourage independent learning. Let's continue to encourage them to do research and to be curious. And to future-proof them, okay, keep on using technology. If you're back in the classroom and you've got an interactive whiteboard, or perhaps your students have got tablets or they can bring tablets, then continue to use them, continue to make it part of your lessons. Train students in keyboard use. So I'm going to do a quick activity now with you. Okay, I'm going to count to 3. Okay, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay. And when I get to 3, so when you hear 1, 2, 3, when you hear 3, I would like you, but not before, I'd like you to type the word 3, so THREE, into the chat box. Yeah. So, and I don't want the number, I want the word, and I don't want it yet. I haven't said it. Are you ready? Ready, steady, go. 1, 2, 3. And the chat box is moving, flying. It's great to see all your 3s in there. Okay, so I asked you to type the word, not the number. Okay. If we did it again, I might say, right now, I'd like you to write the numbers. I'd like you to write the numbers 1, 2, 3. Can you write 1, 2, 3 in the chat box? Excellent. Okay, so I'm training you in keyboard use. I'm training you to listen and to follow instructions. I'm training you when to type it, when to type, when to press enter, whether I want a number or a word. So make it a game, really practical keyboard use. I don't know whether your students, how quick they are with a keyboard. I did typing lessons when I was 15, and it has been wonderful, as such a useful thing to know. I can type quite quickly, and when I'm writing materials, people sort of are amazed at how quickly I can type. So that's a really useful life skill, and we can help them develop it and also train them in this, this keyboard use so that our classes work if we are online. Class norms, okay, is something. So I think possibly a lot of you, I know I with classes sometimes do create a class contract. So, you know, listen to each other when you're speaking, be polite, don't interrupt. So we think about what class norms do you need if you're face-to-face or if you're online. Or a lot of people I know at the moment are doing hybrid lessons. So they've got students in the classroom, but they've got students who perhaps have been in contact with somebody who's tested positive, and so they're online at home. So again, think about how can the class run smoothly if you're in different situations. If you're all back in face-to-face lessons now, you could talk about, you know, talk about the experience of online classes. How did they find it? What did they like? What do they think they could improve in? Another thing which I'm going to write a blog post this week about is screen presence. So for today's session, I thought about what clothes I was going to wear. I'm wearing a plain color because a few months into giving webinars, I got some advice from an organization I was presenting for. And the suggestion was always wear a plain color, not lots of patterns, because depending on your internet connection and your picture, I might be off-putting if I was in a jazzy, you know, very colorful patterned blouse. So Maya, you're asking about shy students. So precisely, appearing on screen. I bet most of your students are brilliant at taking selfies. Are your students good at taking selfie photos? Do your students make TikTok videos? I bet they do. Yeah, so I'm hopeless at taking selfies. I never get myself, in the right position. I don't really like selfies when I see myself in a selfie. And yet my daughters take brilliant selfies. They know how to pose, how to angle. So let's make appearing on a screen like taking a selfie. Let them explore, let them experiment. Which side do they look best from? What height is it best to have the camera at? Because it's a real life skill that students are going to need in the future. So at the moment, a lot of people are still online. I know people who are doing the whole job interview process online. They're having their interview online. Their interviewer is perhaps in a different country or certainly in a different place, and they have to answer questions and present themselves online. So it's a real relevant life skill. So pitch it that way to students, okay? So you don't like being on screen, but you're going to have to, yeah? So let's train students, let's help them to appear on screen. And as I say, I'm going to write a blog post this week on just that and share some practical activities for you to use with students. Train them, especially young learners. We're talking about, how older learners might be used to going online and searching, but young learners probably aren't. So, there's a kids' YouTube, there are kids' search engines, which won't produce, worrying results that our children shouldn't be exposed to. So again, let's train students in these real life skills. Students are shy. They don't like appearing on screen. I've got a question for you. If I asked you to turn on your camera now, would you feel happy and safe and confident? The way you are dressed today and what you're wearing and your hair, would you be able to switch on your camera? Okay, so we've got a right mixture of answers. Okay, so for some of you, I don't know, it may well be the evening. It might be first thing in the morning. It might even be during the night, wherever you are. You might be in your pajamas, or you might not have washed your hair, or whatever. Yeah, there could be 1,000 reasons why you don't want to appear on screen. So perhaps talk to students and say, right, on Thursday in our next lesson, we're going to have the cameras on, okay? So they know and they're all right, okay, I'll wash my hair and I'll make sure and I'll wear this, okay? So I thought about what I was going to wear today. I thought about wearing a plain color. I thought about wearing purple because it cheers me up and makes me feel more lively. So I prepared for the session. So again, real life skills, you're going to appear on camera. So what are you going to wear? With younger children or even with teenagers or adults, you could all dress up as a magician, a clown. Yeah, you could have a theme for the class or decide on a color theme. Right, everybody's going to wear something red today. Okay, and give them a reason for appearing on camera and make it fun. Okay, and then maybe their attitude would change. Sharing, okay? So ask your students to find an interesting fact, a positive news story. If you've been studying some expressions, get them to go online and search for news stories and matches for the examples of this new language in use. When I'm writing materials and I want to find real examples of the language in use, I go online and I find examples and see how it's being used right now, today. Get them to share a video, a TikTok video. They could even make a video, something that they created. If you've got artists in the class, get them to share it with each other. I'm not a very good artist, so maybe if I showed you a picture, I said, I tried to draw a student, but I wasn't very good. And then maybe you could say, well, because, the head's too big or it's too small, or why don't you try this? Okay, so make it a sharing activity. Get them to look on their phones. And for example, an activity I like to do, find photos of trees, and find a photo of a tree, where there's a tree in your photo that you'd like to share with other people. And then tell each other about your photographs. Why did you take that photograph? Is the tree the main thing in the photograph, or perhaps it's in the background? Where was the photograph taken? Why did you take it? What memories does it bring back? Okay, so sharing these experiences. I'm coming across all the time, I'm coming across new apps, new websites. I don't have time to look at them all. They all, teachers will say, oh, there's this great website. And I think, right, I must explore that. But I've got a list that I never have time to look at them all. So get students, so a group of 8 students, get them to go off and explore 8 different websites or 8 different apps, and come back and report on them, and decide whether to use them in class perhaps, or whether to use them to study. And definitely continue that communication with parents. Now that you're in touch with those parents and you've got them on your side and they're supporting you and they're helping you, continue to do that. So I hope that we can share in the chat box this handout that I've created. So these are some sharing activities that I suggest for teachers to use with students. They could be, you could do it for homework and then come back. And you can see there are 21 different activities, and square 20 says try out some of these creativity exercises. And that is on the second page of the handout. And these are the creativity exercises that I've suggested. So 21 sharing activities plus 21 creativity exercises is what I wanted to share with you. There are also other things. Okay, now proof your students for this new normality. So if you haven't already, set up some good communication systems and channels. Decide how you can communicate with students, even if they're not coming to class at this point. Something I would definitely recommend thinking about using would be mood trackers. So if you've got anxious students, or students who are perhaps a bit demotivated, think about, maybe if they tracked their moods, they can work out why they're feeling this way, or perhaps by noticing negative feelings, they can work on towards positive feelings, and perhaps this mood tracker will change. Hopefully it will. Question 5 was about teachers and asking teachers, how would you feel right now? And in this case, I've given 4 alternatives. And I was again felt very, very happy to read that the vast majority of teachers feel very positive and feel as though they've really learned and developed so much. There are changes that teachers have made, and they're definitely going to keep on using them and keep on using the materials and techniques that they've used. There were a lot of teachers who said they had mixed feelings, that they'd learned a lot, but it had been very hard, and I would totally agree with that. And teachers got through it, but obviously would prefer not to have to go back to totally online teaching. And of the 643 teachers, only 7 reported feeling very demotivated. So we've been resilient and we've got through that, the vast majority of us. And for those who are very demotivated, I hope that by thinking about it, they can snap themselves out and become motivated again. So in terms of you, future-proof your work. Be proactive. So if you were recording, and I've got a lot of friends who are recording presentations for students so that they could access them at different times. So record each lesson you give. This webinar is being recorded so that maybe people who can't attend live can watch a recording. Create a playlist for your lessons. So you're probably used to writing lesson plans, and you've got stores of physical materials. So make sure you store your playlist, all of these resources that you've found and that you've created, because it's definitely the way to go forward, and you've put in so much time and effort that shouldn't go to waste. Find out what works for you. Okay, so what works for you in terms of keyboard use, like my 1, 2, 3 activity? What works for you in terms of class norms and etiquette, and how you and your students feel comfortable about using the camera, turning on the camera. Build up a bank of brain breaks, okay? And these can be used in any situation. Yeah, so brain breaks is, yeah, you're getting a bit sort of tired and your brain's getting tired and you want to, change the pace, you want to change the activity. So do a brain break, okay? Brain break could be, right, look at the camera, okay, or look at your screen and imagine that's a photographer. Your screen is the photographer and you're going to have your photograph taken. So, are you ready? Smile for the photograph. Get yourself ready for the photograph. Get yourself ready for a selfie. Get yourself ready to speak on a video. Okay, so that was a quick brain break. It was a quick practical activity. Think about your body language and your pose. Notice I took my glasses off. Build up a bank of jingles, of theme tunes, background music. Get students to help you build those. Build up a bank of images and icons and store them. Get your artistic students to create these things for you. And something I definitely like and definitely came into play last year was giving portfolio grades. So instead of students handing in every piece of work that they do or submitting or sending you every piece of work, get them to choose, say, 3 pieces of work that they think are their best pieces of work and assess them on that. Involve them much more in self-assessment and evaluation and being self-critical as well. What's wrong with it? How could it improve? And definitely, if you're not already doing it, I definitely recommend use the online resources that are already created. So create your YouTube lists. I've got loads of boards on Pinterest. So collections of links, useful images, quotes on different themes. Bookmarks. I have a bookmark on my browser, which is called For Later. So I store things. I'm maybe working on something else, and I find something. I think, oh, that's really good, but I haven't got time to look at it. So I automatically stick it into my For Later bookmarks, and then when I do have time, I'll come back to it. Okay, so organize your resources. And then future-proof yourself. So learn something that's not related to teaching, not related to your work. Learn to doodle, learn to draw, to knit, to make something. Unlearn something. Okay, so if you're right-handed, do a few things with your left hand and get used to using your left hand. And then if you break your right hand or your right arm, you will be better at using the one that you don't normally use. Get moving. So as well as exercising, I've been reading that if we're sitting down a lot, and this could be in front of a screen or you could be sitting down in class perhaps, then every 2 hours you should stand up and move around. And then go for an all walk. So all walks is quite a very new term, and I love going for all walks. So you go outside and you look around, and especially you look up. Look at the sky, look at the tree tops, look at the roofs of the building, look at the horizon. And you'll just feel that it just uplifts you. So look around, go for an all walk. Isn't that lovely? And you'll find, I guarantee, because you'll find that it will inspire you. I've got some activities on my webpage for all walks if you'd like to know more. Ask for help, okay, when you need it. So I think this situation has also taught us, you know, that it's fine and we should ask for help. There are loads of really great teachers out there who are ready to help. Oops. Something I download every month is from a website called Action for Happiness. And they have a calendar every month with a theme. So at the moment we're in Friendly February. And your task for today would be to make time to have a friendly chat with a neighbor. So that would be your task, your action for today. So if you don't know the website Action for Happiness, I thoroughly recommend it. And as I say, every month I download the calendar and I have it on my desktop. And follow people who inspire you. So I follow this guy called Ashok Palmer on Twitter. And he works at Wembley Central Station in London. And every day he shares a photo of the board that's up in the station. And he has a quote for today, and he has some wonderful quotes. So there are loads of inspiring teachers. There are loads of inspiring people out there. So open your eyes, go for an all walk, go for an online all walk. Okay, I'm very aware. I think I've only got a couple of minutes for questions, which I apologize for. But have you shared, or I haven't been able to sort of keep a constant eye on the chat. So have the handouts been shared there?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions, but because we don't have any time, if you don't mind, we'll send you them via email, and then we'll include your written answers in the post-conference.
That sounds perfect. Perfect.
Okay, great.
You've given me more time to think of my answers.
Yeah, and a couple of people have asked for resources as well, so I think it'll be a good place to share whatever you suggest for them to look for. Yeah.
Excellent.
Super. Thank you so much. That was very interesting. And I think everybody found it really helpful, especially the calendars. I'm going to download the calendar for positivity.
Yeah, I share every single month on the first day of the month via Facebook. And the, you know, the number of reshares that it gets, and the, you know, people saying, wow, you know, I'm waiting for these every month. So definitely very popular.
Well, thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you for inviting me to participate.
Of course. We look forward to seeing you again, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully in person. I'd love to come to Albania.
Always welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Goodbye. I'll be hanging around and watching more sessions myself. So
super. Thanks.
Right. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.